wa vijana kuchukua usukani na kutatua shida zinazowakabili. Mwanahabari wetu Wero Mwangi amekutana na kundi hili na kutuandalia taarifa ifuatayo.
Zikiwa zimesalia siku za kuhesabu uchaguzi mdogo wa eneo bunge la Juja ufanyike, kundi la vijana kutoka eneo la Mlima Kenya wameonekana kuchoshwa na kile wanachosema ni mfumo wa siasa za urithi nchini, na kusema zimepitwa na wakati, haswa katika uchaguzi mdogo ujao wa eneo la Juja.
Uongozi wa urithi tuliwacha miaka iliyopita. Hiyo tulizika katika kaburi la sahau. Hilo jambo limetukasirisha sana kama wanajuja. Ati mtu akiondoka leo, bibi yake ama watoto wake ama bwana yake ndiye anachukua usukani. Hao wanaochukua tunajuaje kama wataweza hiyo kazi?
Vijana hawa wakionekana kumpigia debe kijana mwenzao anayewania kiti hiki kama mgobeaji huru, Daktari Joseph Geshui, wamesema ana maono makuu ya kubadilisha eneo la Juja na kuwa msemo wa vijana ni viongozi wa kesho umepitwa na wakati.
Kiswahili tunachoambiwa siku baada ya siku ya kwamba wewe ni kiongozi wa kesho kimefika mwisho. Na sisi kama vijana wa Mount Kenya, today we are here to support a fellow youth. A youth who believe in who we've heard his ideologies. And it is time as fellow youth, irrespective of where you are from, coming from Mount Kenya, coming from the coast region, coming from Rift Valley, if a youth is out there standing for the youths, there's no one else that is there for you. Hakuna kitu limetuonesha ya kwamba sisi kama vijana tuko peke yetu kama muda huu wa corona.
Kundi la vijana hawa limesema wamependezwa na sera za Daktari Geshui za kuanzisha kituo cha kushughulikia dhuluma za kijinsia zinazoonekana kuongezeka kila uchao.
I'm also supporting him because of his agenda. For example, like he's helping us to fight against gender-based violence. We'll be able to establish rescue center where we are going to take our gender-based violence victims.
Hata hivyo, kundi hili limekemea vikali matamshi ya mbunge wa Gatundu Kusini ya kudhalilisha elimu na kusema kuwa idadi kubwa ya viongozi walio bungeni wana vyeti vya udereva pekee, na kutoa wito kwa wenyeji wa Juja kutozingatia siasa za vyama.
It is very wrong that a fellow leader will come in and say the highest form ati ile kusoma sana kiongozi amesoma ni ako na driving license. Alafu tunacheka na tunampea kiti. My friend, these are university graduates who have serious issues like unemployment and internship they are lacking.
Nikiripotia runinga ya TV47 kutoka eneo bunge la Juja, mimi ni Wero Mwangi.
Kutoka eneo bunge la Juja tuelekee kaunti ya Kajiado, ambapo wahudumu wa matatu kutoka eneo la Namanga kaunti hiyo wamelalamikia bei ya juu ya mafuta ambayo imefanya kazi yao kuwa ngumu zaidi. Wahudumu hawa husafirisha wateja kutoka Namanga hadi Kajiado na kutoka Kajiado hadi Nairobi, jambo ambalo wanasema limesababisha nauli ya juu, kwa sababu awali walikuwa wanalipisha 300 na sasa ni 450.
Wapunge wachasongea karibu na sisi sana.
Sasa mahali tumefikia, kazi ni mbaya. Kwa ufupi ni kama serikali juu mwananchi mdogo, ni kusema nini? Hii kama gari yangu sasa iko na loni. Na ya pili, ikifika masaa jioni ni either niende Mrongo ama nilale hapa, na ni hasara. Na muhindi anangojea gari yake atumue pesa yake ama haikujie. Je, kwani kulienda namna gani? Rais ametusahau? Ni akumbuka mwananchi mwenye alimchagua, acha kuona wenye wako juu. Kama sasa ameweka kafyo ni saa 2. Sasa uko na manga na ni saa 11. Hakuna bila utabeba, itabidi usonga Mrengo. Upelekee mwenyewe gari empty. Hiyo gari inakunywa diesel iko juu. Je, tunashangaa kwani kuna tofauti ya Kenya na Tanzania na East Africa? Na mafuta inatoka hapa, tulipata mafuta hapa ngamia 1.
Na manga hii tunapata shida katika sekta ya matatu. Tunapata shida nyingi. Hizi magari nyingi unaangalia hapa zinadaiwa. Wengine wanakaa hapa siku 2 wakitafuta vile wataenda. Abiria tunagombana na wao kuhusu nauli. Nauli tunapandisha, lakini tunakosana na wao kwa sababu nauli. Haya, mafuta ndio mnapandisha. Kila mwezi mnapandisha mafuta mara 2 mara 3. Hiyo kitu hatuwezani naye. Tunagombana na abiria, lakini serikali iangalie advantage ama disadvantage.
Hata mahitaji ya kwetu manyumbani tunayakosa kwa sababu tunapata saa zingine 100. Kama hii unaona hii gari hapa iko hapa mbele, ni gari ya kwanza kutoka saa 12 hadi saa hizi haijaondoka. Kule chini na ile kampuni nyingine ni hivyo hivyo. Kwa kweli tunaumia. tunaomba serikali tuangalie, na tunahofia kama hii kazi zetu tutaziacha, kwa sababu gari mingi hapo unaona kama KDA ile iko pale, hizi CN zingine ziko huku, ni gari za loan.
Na viongozi wa chama cha kutetea maslahi ya walimu nchini KNUT eneo la Magharibi wamemtaka katibu mkuu wa chama hicho Wilson Sossion kujiuzulu kama katibu mkuu kufuatia kile wanachodai kuwa uongozi mbaya na ukiukaji wa sheria za chama hicho. Wakiongea katika zoezi la kuwachagua viongozi wapya eneo hilo, wanachama hao wamesema kuwa watamng'atua mamlakani Sossion iwapo hatatishia mkutano wa kuwachagua viongozi wapya wa KNUT katika ngazi ya kitaifa ifikiapo tarehe 6 Juni.
Sababu ya kwanza ya kumtaka kumuondoa katibu mkuu wa chama cha KNUT kwa wakati huu, ndugu Wilson Arap Sossion, ni kwamba uhusiano wake na serikali ambaye inaongozwa na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta umedorora. Hiyo ni sababu ya kwanza. Sababu ya pili, uhusiano wake na mwajiri wetu Teacher Service Commission si uhusiano mwema. Hashirikiani na mwajiri wetu Teacher Service Commission, na kwa sababu ya hayo walimu wetu wako na shida chungu furiko na wanadhalilishwa kama walimu wa Kenya. Mheshimiwa Wilson Arap Sossion hatumii katiba ya chama cha walimu cha KNUT. Amekeuka sheria za chama cha walimu cha KNUT, na hiyo ni sababu nyingine ambayo inatufanya tumfurushe kama kiongozi wa chama cha walimu cha KNUT.
Today is setting a precedence of bringing back order, peace and working sanity in the Ministry of Education.
Na muungano wa kitaifa wa wazee wa Njuri Ncheke ukiongozwa na mwenyekiti wake Linus Kadhera umezitaka jamii za kaunti ya Isiolo kutumia wazee wa Njuri Ncheke katika kutatua mgogoro kama vile ya ardhi ambayo imeongezeka pakubwa katika kaunti hiyo. Wazee hao walikuwa wamekongamana katika ofisi zao kaunti hiyo ya Isiolo kuchagua baraza jipya la uongozi. Wazee hao wa Njuri Ncheke wanafahamika kisheria na uongozi wa mahakama na wana uwezo wa kutatua migogoro iliyowasilishwa mahakamani.
Tunakuja hapa kuchagua chairman rasmi wa Njuri Ncheke katika Isiolo, na sio chairman tu wa Meru peke yake. Hata akiwa ni kabila nyingine imedanganywa samba, imefanywa mengine, akienda hata yale maslahi ya kila mtu hapa Isiolo. Njuri Ncheke iwezi ingilia kitu ishindwe. Unaweza kwenda kotini unakana, lakini ukienda kwa wazee huwezi kana wazee, sababu wazee kuna mahali watakupeleka mpaka utoe wewe mwenyewe. Kwa hivyo wazee wako na nguvu ya Kenya.
Sisi wa Meru tunamiliki Isiolo na rasilimali mingi sana, na hii rasilimali lazima iangaliwe. Maslahi ya wazee wa Meru, vijana wa Meru waiangaliwe na wazee wa Njuri Ncheke. Hiyo ndio sababu imetufanya tukuje hapa tukiwa national body ya Njuri Ncheke ya Meru kutoka Adochi mpaka Tonyere, kuja kuona tumeweka viongozi ambao watasimama kwa niaba ya Njuri Ncheke.
Na mjadala wa mswada wa marekebisho ya katiba wa mwaka 2020 umeingia siku yake ya pili leo na ukijadiliwa katika mabunge yote mawili. Vikao hivi vikiwa rasmi vilianza hiyo jana na cheche zikishuhudiwa katika vikao hivyo. Kwa sasa mtazamaji, tunavuka moja kwa moja hadi katika bunge la Seneti tusikilize kinachoendelea. Ni kwamba mjadala wa mswada wa ripoti ya BBI unaendelea. Kwa sasa nitakuwa nahitimishia taarifa hizi hapa, lakini nakuacha katika bunge hilo tusikilize kinachoendelea pale.
Some errors on the face of the record, and we have made a proposal, Mr. Speaker, that this House, and that is at 65. If you read this report, we had two experts, Mr. Speaker, Professor Kamiri Mbote and Dr. Collins Odote. And they did point out, Mr. Speaker, that if we identify an error of form, not an error of substance which changes the wishes of the promoters of the bill, we can make steps to amend the bill to correct those errors. Mr. Speaker, I want to state that I'm not the author of the errors that appear in this bill. I'm not the author. And I've seen debates on social media that there were two bills. Whether there were two bills or one bill, I don't know. The only business that we had to undertake as a committee is to scrutinize each clause of the bill, make observation, and report back to the House. And Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that even His Excellency the President and the Right Honorable Prime Minister, the owner of the handshake, they are not going to kill any of us if we correct this mistake on this bill. Nobody is going to say we have committed a mistake by correcting this error. And Mr. Speaker, I want this House to note that the bill that is being considered at the National Assembly does not have these errors. So don't look at what is happening on the other side. The error on this bill refers to the bill that was read before the Senate. So the task of seeing how to correct those errors is only with this House. And Mr. Speaker, we have proposed that the leadership, that is the move of this bill, takes steps to correct that error. How will we look to the Kenyan people, Mr. Speaker, if we consider a bill that has got these typing errors and we fail in our duty as members of the Senate in correcting these simple errors? And then you send a bill to the people that has got these glaring errors. Mr. Speaker, I want to persuade the House that this is an error that does not change the substance of the bill. So we are not changing the intention of the promoters. We're just doing an amendment that will correct errors that appear on the face of the bill that was read before us. So, Mr. Speaker, the next point I was making yesterday was regarding the clauses on the judiciary. And Mr. Speaker, some people did not get the point I was making. Mr. Speaker, if you read Article 172 of the current Constitution, the Judicial Service Commission still retains the power of considering complaints that are made against judges. And I want to read what is in Article 172C. It says that the function of the JSC will be to receive complaints against judges, to investigate and remove from office or otherwise discipline registrars, magistrates, and other staff in a manner prescribed by an act of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the current position is that you cannot suspend a judge of the High Court, Court of Appeal, or the Supreme Court before Judicial Service Commission has recommended to the President the setting up of a tribunal to look into the conduct of a judge of a superior court. Now, the clause that that the committee has an issue with is what is in clause 43, Mr. Speaker, whereby it is now proposed that just by the mere receiving of a complaint, before that complaint is looked at and a determination made that a tribunal should be formed to look into the conduct of the judges, Judicial Service Commission can now suspend a judge. And then later on even say we have looked at the complaint and we have found it unmerited, and you are free to go back and perform the functions of your office. What we are saying as a committee, Mr. Speaker, is that this will be a big clawback on the independence of the judiciary. It will create a lot of fear among judges, and we are proposing that the prevailing situation where judges are suspended only after a recommendation has been made to form a tribunal should remain as it is. That's why we have termed that particular amendment to the Constitution as being unconstitutional. But Mr. Speaker, the other clause that we looked at was clause 2 or 3. Now, Mr. Speaker, on this particular one, There is a proposed amendment to this constitution in clause 50, Mr. Speaker, where there is a new clause, that is clause N, and I could read that clause to the House, which reads, to ensure that the average amount of money allocated per person to account with the highest allocation does not exceed 3 times the average amount per person allocated to account with the lowest allocation. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the findings of the committee, and this is at page 166 of our report, Mr. Speaker, we have analyzed this provision vis-a-vis clause Article 217 of the Constitution, which provides that in every 5 years, the Senate will come up with a resolution to determine the basis for allocating money among counties. And Mr. Speaker, we had a simulation that was done to us by the Parliamentary Budget Office. And Mr. Speaker, if we were to apply that new clause, 203N, there are a number of counties that will automatically be disadvantaged. And a county like Tana River will immediately lose 2.3 billion if that clause was to take effect. A county like Samburu will lose 1.2 billion. A county like Marsabit will lose 1.2 billion. A county like Isiolo will lose 1.1 billion. Lamu will lose 435. Turkana will lose 435 billion. Taita Taveta will lose 368 million. So this is a matter that you may not see this debate being vibrant in the National Assembly, because this is a matter that is handled almost exclusively by the Senate. It's us who understand that our role really is to defend county governments and the people who reside in those counties. So when we look at all these factors, Mr. Speaker, and considering the fact that the last resolution that was passed by this House stated very clearly that no county should be allowed to lose money, we made a conclusion, Mr. Speaker, that this proposed Article 203N will be in clear conflict with the provisions of Article 217 of the Constitution. And we said, Mr. Speaker, that should this bill pass, then the executive and Parliament will again be called upon to put in place mechanisms that will ensure that no counties are disadvantaged. So we made a conclusion that that article, in our opinion, is problematic, is undesirable, and that it will interfere with the provisions of Article 203(1) of the Constitution, more so on issues of affirmative action, whereby, Mr. Speaker, some of the counties that have been lagging behind in development must be supported with more resources so that they catch up with other parts of Kenya, and that we must also ensure that there is a stable and predictable allocation of resources to counties. Mr. Speaker, if these counties were to lose this money, it will make their budgeting and financial planning to be almost impossible. Madam Speaker, the other clause that we looked at is clause 230. The proposed amendments to clause 230, that is the one that deals with salaries and remuneration commission. That is clause 61 of the bill. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the current architecture of that clause, clause 230 of the current constitution, Article 230 of the current constitution, Mr. Speaker, the composition of SRC includes one representative of the Parliamentary Service Commission, one representative of the Public Service Commission, one representative of Judicial Service Commission, one representative of the Teachers Service Commission, the National Police. Then the Senate picks one representative on behalf of the county governments. And then we have one representative representing the trade unions, one representative representing employers, and then one representative representing the Joint Forum of Professional Bodies. Mr. Speaker, having listened to stakeholders, and I must say that one of the stakeholders was Senator Kasanga, who appeared before us. Mr. Speaker, an issue arose that this proposed amendment to Article 230, where all these bodies will be removed and then replaced with 7 commissioners, picked by the President and then vetted only by the National Assembly and not by the Senate. Yet they will set terms for both members of National Assembly and the members of the Senate is highly objectionable. Mr. Speaker, we also looked at how SRC will be able to determine terms for professionals including engineers, quantity surveyors, providing service to county and national and county governments, and we found that this article will most likely be very problematic. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we propose that in future there will be need to relook at this particular article. Now, Mr. Speaker, the other point that was very controversial is the second schedule of this proposed bill. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the proposed 70 constituencies, we looked at it from two angles, Madam Mr. Speaker. The first one is the process leading to the creation of the 70 constituencies. And Mr. Speaker, we went through all the BBI reports, and they are contained in this report that was tabled before the House. And Mr. Speaker, we looked at the initial task force. When they released their first reports, there was nowhere where there was a mention of an additional 70 constituencies and the 28 counties that were to benefit. The task force that was appointed to validate the report that was released by the first task force never mentioned these 70 constituencies anywhere. Mr. Speaker, the MP for Bobasi, and I will not refer to the exact page because of time, and the senator for Kitui appeared before the committee during the public hearing, and they took us to task, Mr. Speaker, to show them where the BBI team held public hearings, where Kenyans gave views as to which county should benefit from these 70 constituencies. And Mr. Speaker, we had no answers. Therefore, the process that was followed to allocate these 70 constituencies to 28 counties and leave out 19 does not have answers within BBI. Number two, Mr. Speaker, we invited 2 critical bodies, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Madam Speaker, when Kenya National Bureau of Statistics appeared before us, they took us through the population data in their possession, and then they took us through the formula of population per constituency that can be used to share out these constituencies. Mr. Speaker, their verdict, and it is here in this report, was that at least 5 counties were unfairly denied constituencies. They identified the county of Kitui, they identified the county of Kisii, they identified the county of Meru, they identified at least in total 5 counties. And Mr. Speaker, they said if we used a proper formula, those counties should have been allocated additional constituencies. So, Mr. Speaker, when we asked IBC whether they were consulted, whether there was any public hearings before these constituencies were allocated to these 28 counties, Mr. Speaker, IEBC appeared before us and stated, and it is in this report, that they were never consulted and they were never involved on the allocation of these 70 constituencies. Now, what is even serious, Mr. Speaker, is that IBC told us that BBI task... Mr. Speaker, I hope you can add me more time. 10 minutes.
No.
Now, Mr. Speaker...
Order. You know,
when,
just a minute. You know, when they ask the speaker, not everybody is a speaker. So I hear, I am following. I'll add in 5 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, those who read the report, they can look at the submissions by the Senator for Kitui at page 147 and the MP for Kisii at 147. So what IBC told us, Mr. Speaker, is that page 147. What IBC told us, Mr. Speaker, is that under the provisions of Article 88, sub-Article 4, and Article 89, sub-Article 5 and 7, they are the only ones that have the constitutional mandate of delimitation of boundaries. And even then, they told us, Mr. Speaker, that they only do so after they have accorded an opportunity to all Kenyans to make their views on those constituencies. And then they told us, Mr. Speaker, that even after the exercise has been concluded, invoking the provisions of Article 89(10), they still must give another leeway for any dissatisfied Kenyan to go to court and challenge that process. And the judiciary is given a period of 3 months, to resolve that dispute. So what IBC told us, Mr. Speaker, is that what is provided in this second schedule, which gives them a period of 6 months to undertake that process, is not practically possible. Taking into account all those provisions, Mr. Speaker, and the fact that a schedule cannot purport to amend substantive provisions of the Constitution, the committee arrived at a finding, which is in this report, that the second schedule that proposes to allocate constituencies to 28 counties and leave out 19 is unconstitutional and is of no effect. Mr. Speaker, the question then arises, with all these problems, what must we do as a House, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, when I read the American history, there are two ways you can interpret the Constitution. You can choose to interpret the Constitution in so much a restrictive manner that this House will more or less be moribund. You can also interpret this Constitution in a manner that is so liberal that you're able to achieve two purposes. One, you are able to correct some of the mistakes that this report has pointed out to the House. You could raise up your hands. The Senate, for all pushers, we tick boxes, and we say anything which is unconstitutional will be handled by the courts. The choice will be made by us senators. We have drawn the attention of this House, Mr. Speaker, that Article 94, Mr. Speaker, was given to us by the people of Kenya to exercise legislative authority on behalf of the people we represent. If you read Article 1 on the supremacy of the people, Mr. Speaker, it says, I want to read, the supremacy of all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. So if you invoke Article 94, you are not interfering with the supremacy of the people of Kenya. You are acting in accordance with this Constitution. I want to appeal to the House. Mr. Speaker, to correct the errors that are appearing on this bill before it is released to the people of Kenya for voting. It will be very undesirable, Mr. Speaker, for the National Assembly to pass a bill that has got clauses that are different from what is being passed by this House before we do the corrections. Mr. Speaker, with those remarks, I move. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kangata.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute on this debate. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to raise the following issues. Issue number 1 will be on the constituencies. Issue number 2 will be on the errors appearing in this document, the one before the Senate. Issue number 3 will be the cost of BBI, or this bill once it goes through. Then I will also discuss the issue of the so-called 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Then I will also look at the cost, the effect of an expanded parliament. And then finally, I'll discuss as to whether this House has any powers to amend this document. Mr. Speaker, I start with the first issue concerning the constituency. Mr. Speaker, I will look at it from 2 points of view, technical and a substantive issue. First, let me start with the technical issue concerning that schedule. Mr. Speaker, when you look at schedule in this Constitution of Kenya, there are several schedules. We have schedule number 1, we have schedule number 2, that way. Schedule number 1 on counties, it clearly indicates that schedule has been inserted there pursuant to what article? Like first schedule, it says it is pursuant to Article 6, Subarticle 1 of the Constitution. Second schedule, Mr. Speaker, sir, it indicates that it has been inserted there pursuant to Article 9, Subarticle 2. That way until the last schedule. One of the problems you find in this proposed schedule, it does not indicate it has been inserted there pursuant to what schedule. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have several schedules in several pieces of legislations, and all schedules must indicate they have been inserted there pursuant to what article, to what section of the substantive law. This one, once ratified by the people of Kenya, it will hang there, and therefore, as correctly advised by other people who appeared before us, it may be a superfluous schedule. But be that as it may, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me go to the substantive issue concerning the constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I come from a region called Mount Kenya. We want to say we are very happy that the people of Kwale have been given 2 constituencies. The people of Mombasa, they have been given 3 constituencies. The good people of Kilifi have been given 4, and Bungoma have been given 3. But I'm just wondering, Embu has been given 1, Kirinyaga has been given 1, Muranga has been given 1, Tharaka Nithi has been given 0, Nyandarua has been given 0, Nyeri has been given 0. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, what did we do to the promoters of BBI, those of us who come from Mount Kenya? How come, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have looked at a place called Nyeri, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, Nyeri has about 500,000 registered voters. Mr. Speaker, sir, Kwale has about 250,000 registered voters. Mr. Speaker, sir, Muranga has 600,000 registered voters. Mr. Speaker, sir, the people of Bungoma registered voters, they are about 500,000. Some people have argued, no, you should not consider voters, you should consider population as set out by Article 89. Fair enough. Muranga has about 1.1 million inhabitants as per 2019 census. But it has only been given 1 extra constituency. And again, Mr. Speaker, sir, when you look at Article 89 that talks about delimitation of constituencies, nowhere the term counties appears. It's all about constituencies. And therefore, the criteria should not have been counties, it is constituencies. The effect of this bill will mean a constituency like Kieni, which has about 100,000 plus registered voters, with almost 200 and something residents, and with a huge, what we call surface area, will not get an opportunity to get an extra constituency. A place like Gatanga in Muranga County, which has almost 100,000 registered voters and 200,000 registered voters, will not get an opportunity to get an extra constituency because Muranga has only been given 1. What of a place like Nyandarua in Kinangop, a huge and highly populated constituency? Because allocated a constituency by BBI, Nyandarua people, particularly the people of Kinangop, will not get an opportunity to get an extra constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, on that reason, I am not so sure whether that schedule is fair to the so many counties of Mount Kenya region. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me now go to the errors. This report, as correctly stated by the chair of the committee, the co-chair, we do have two reports, one before the National Assembly, another one before the Senate, and the bills. We do have two bills, one before the National Assembly, another one before the Senate. Mr. Speaker, sir, those bills are different. The one before the Senate, Mr. Speaker, sir, Clause 13, make reference to an Article 13B, Subarticle 2. The one before Senate makes reference to a proposed Article 13B, Subarticle 3. The second difference between the two bills, the one before the National Assembly, Clause 48. On the marginal note, there is a difference in the reference to Article 188. Mr. Speaker, sir, the third difference between the two bills, we have the second schedule, the one before the Senate, makes reference to paragraph 1 in Article 89, Subarticle 7. The one before the National Assembly makes reference to Article 87, Subarticle 7 in its paragraph 1. Mr. Speaker, sir, those are not simple typographical errors, particularly the one that refers to Article 89, Subarticle 7. Why? We all know one of the most contentious debates in this bill is on the proposed power, on the proposal to take away or to interfere with the powers of the IEBC. The error in Article 89, Subarticle 7 clearly touches on Article 89, which refers to powers of the IEBC. So I'm wondering, if we are to endorse, which one will go to the referendum, Mr. Speaker, sir? And remember, majority of county assembly, more than 30, they passed the erroneous bill, the one before the Senate. The one which is IEBC certified is the one that was passed by majority of the county assembly. And therefore, one can correctly argue this bill does not meet the constitutional requirement as provided in Article 257.
There's a point of order from Senator Kasanga, virtually. Senator Kasanga.
Wondering, yesterday Senator Sakaja did raise a point of order as to whether his report can also be heard before the debate started. Because I think for us, we are following very closely. It would have been good for us to hear the dissenting opinion before the debate actually now fully starts open to the members, because of these issues of what is constitutional or what is unconstitutional. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm begging if it is possible for us to hear the dissenting or the minority report as well. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
First, I don't see Sakaja in the House, and he's also part of that report. When he comes, we'll give him, he's part of the report. Yes, proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me now go to the issue of the cost of BBI. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is a report that is part of the annexure of the documents that were presented before the Joint JLAC Committee. That report was prepared by none other but the Parliamentary Budget Office. That report, that is dated 1st of October 2021, indicates that once this BBI passes, Kenyan public will will be forced to pay an extra 20 billion Kenya shillings per year to shoulder the burden of BBI. 20 billion shillings. For example, Mr. Speaker, sir, National Assembly will have 453 members. The Senate will have 94 senators. An extra. We shall be having 94 senators. Members of the National Assembly will be 453. And also, you have not even factored nominated members of the National Assembly. You need to pay them salaries. You need to provide for car grants. You need to provide for their running. Mr. Speaker, sir, 20 billion shillings is enough money for us to buy vaccines and ensure each and every Kenyan has a COVID-19 vaccine, Mr. Speaker, sir. And you have not taken into account the cost of doing the referendum, Mr. Speaker, sir. There has been estimates that the referendum will need 14 billion to be conducted. And then once we pass this BBI thing, then there will be an extra 20 billion shilling annually that will be incurred by the Kenyan taxpayer. Mr. Speaker, sir, I now go to 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. The proposed amendment to Article 203A. Mr. Speaker, sir, I was a great proponent of that idea. But when I look at the proposed Article 203, Subarticle A, and it does not speak to what I was fighting for, Mr. Speaker, sir. I thought, Mr. Speaker, sir, this proposal is going to embed the idea that county money should be shared, putting the factor of population, giving it the right weight. But this one is only about of saying each per capita distribution of county resources, you don't give it more than a 3 factor. When I look at Muranga, for instance, when I look at Nyeri, when I look at Nyandarua, when I look at Meru, they will still have amongst the lowest per capita distribution of county resources. And therefore, let no one say that this Article 203 Subarticle A embeds the idea of 1 man, 1 shilling. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me now go to the idea of called the expanded parliament. Mr. Speaker, sir, here we have 67 honorable senators. National Assembly, as we speak, has 290 elected members of parliament, plus the women rep, plus 12 elected 12 nominated and nominated members of parliament. We have 47 women reps and 290. But once we expand the Senate, apart from the element of cost, there will be practical problems in this house. Number one, we will have to build new offices to accommodate the new members. Again, two, it will take a long time for each member to catch the eye of the speaker. We will be staying here trying to catch the eye of the speaker, and I'm not so sure whether we'll be able to give adequate representation to the people. That problem will be more acute in the National Assembly because you'll be talking of a huge number. Mr. Speaker, sir, there was a time I went to China, I recall, when I was in the National Assembly. I was so surprised that China has 2,000 members of parliament in a population of 1.4 billion Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, when you divide that population vis-a-vis the representation of the Chinese parliamentarians, you will find one member of parliament in China represent about 500,000 persons. But in Kenya, what are we proposing under this proposal? You will be like you are representing 20,000 persons. Surely a poor country like this one. In the US, Mr. Speaker, sir, how many senators do we have? We have 100 members in a population of 300 million. Surely, you are proposing now we create or we have 94 senators in a population of about 47, 48 million. I think we need to concentrate as a country on issues that bedevil us. Issues of economics. We must ensure that we don't
put all our resources in expanding legislature. We must remember we represent people. We should not make this society very heavy on the bureaucratic element of it. And that is what this BBI is proposing. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me now to go to the last issue, which issue is what is the effect of, what is the role of this parliament? Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to read Article 3, Subarticle 1 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, when I look at Article 3, Subarticle 1 of the Constitution, it says, every person has an obligation to respect, uphold, and defend this Constitution. It means the Honorable Senator from Makueni, the minority whip, you have that obligation to defend. Mr. Speaker, sir, it means the Honorable Senator from Kisii, Professor, you have an obligation to defend this Constitution. It means, my friend from Nandi, you have an obligation to defend this Constitution. When we are being told we pass manifestly and clearly unconstitutional, you have that obligation to defend. Mr. Speaker, sir, it means the Honorable Senator from Kisii, Professor, you have an obligation to defend this Constitution. It means, my friend from Nandi, you have an obligation to defend this Constitution. When we are being told we pass manifestly and clearly unconstitutional amendments, whichever it is now settled that this bill has unconstitutional amendments, we are breaching Article 3, Subarticle 1 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have taxed my mind to read Article 257 of the Constitution, the so-called popular amendment of the Constitution. When I look at it, there is no express positive law that prohibits this House from proposing amendments to this bill. I think we have a duty, a legal duty, pursuant to Article 3, Subarticle 1 of the Constitution, as read with Article 257, which does not bar this House from doing away with all unconstitutionalities which are contained in this bill, and ensuring we take a document that is constitutional, that is fair to each and every person. Mr. Speaker, sir, the first major review of the Constitution in this country was done in the 1963 Constitution making process. There was Lancaster 1 and Lancaster 2. Why can't we adopt the same method? We have a constitutional conference like they did in 1963. 1969, we did not have a consultative conference for constitutional review. That is why the worst constitution Kenya had is the one of 1969, the one that killed Senate, the one that abolished regional governments, the one that concentrated powers on the executive, because of the whole idea of pushing a constitutional review process without being consultative. Okay. Mr. Speaker,
your time is up. Sorry.
But machine is still talking.
No. Take your seat.
Still functioning.
You're the only one. Take your seat. Try to consolidate your idea. Senator Khaniri, virtual. Yeah, Senator Khaniri. Virtual. Senator Khaniri. Yes, we can hear you. Put on your camera, Senator Khaniri. We can't hear you, Senator Khaniri. You need to increase your volume and... Yes, we can see you now. Yes, sir. Senator.
On the processing of a bill to amend the Constitution by popular initiative subsequently. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Just perhaps I think maybe Honorable Tilly Amolo, maybe many people may have forgotten that you are a member of the committee of experts that came up with the current constitution, in which when you look at, there's an article that I think every member should always have it at the back of their mind, Article 103, about how a member may lose their seat. If you look at Article 103 of the current Constitution, there is sub-Article 1 with many paragraphs, A, B, C, D, et al. Thereafter, Clause 3. Anybody, that's the point that the Honorable Tilly Amolo is talking about, the purpose. If you are to look at that article, would you say Article 103, would you talk about Clause 2? Because it doesn't exist in the, you just look at that. Look at that article. It's not Clause 2. It jumps to Clause 3. But it was passed. It was passed as it is the Constitution of Kenya, which was promulgated. I think it's important that people to understand some of the issues that the Honorable Tilly Amolo was speaking to. That some of them may be inconsequential. They don't have much import, even if they are led to stay as they are. Now, because of our members, we agree that we will have everybody who cares or desires to speak to this bill. I will now not use the normal left of Mr. Speaker and right of Mr. Speaker, because I'm looking at the requests. There are 54 in number, and I think my screen shows the first 16. All of them appear to be from the left of Mr. Speaker. So, the early bird catches the worm, isn't it? First come, first served. So don't. I'm announcing this so that nobody says, why are you giving people only one side? It is the way the screen is. Now they have increased to 57. Yeah, because, let's be fair. Let's just give people the way they put in their requests. What do you mean, error? But the Honorable Pukosa says he was among the first to come. Yet when we were counting to see whether we have quorum, he just walked in. But there were others who had put in their cards earlier. That's what it means. That Honorable member, so that it's good to announce this so that we know why it is that. So the first one on the list is the member for West Mugirango, the Honorable Kamosi.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I came here, the first one this morning. And Honorable Speaker, I've had opportunity to look at the report in entirety. And Honorable Speaker, right from the beginning, I want to make it very clear that there are some proposed amendments which I really agree with.
Honorable Kekaria, it is never done that way. You can't move from there. You have suddenly forgotten you are already in the house.
And there are some proposed amendments, Your Honorable Speaker, which I do not agree with. Honorable Speaker, in Clause 5 of the bill, it proposes to amend Article 31 of the Constitution on privacy to include the right of people not to have their personal data infringed, Honorable Speaker. This provision, Honorable Speaker, is a good provision because it will protect the privacy of the people of Kenya from their data being infringed, Honorable Speaker. Recently, Honorable Speaker, we have had the Huduma number, whose data is being stored by the government. This provision, Honorable Speaker, will go hand in hand to protect the privacy of the said data. Honorable Speaker, Clause 6 of the bill seeks to amend Article 8 of the Constitution to provide for expeditious investigation, prosecution, and trial of corruption cases. This particular proposal, Honorable Speaker, it provides that under the Constitution, this House can enact a legislation to provide for expeditious trial of the corruption cases. In my view, Honorable Speaker, this particular provision or proposal can as well be captured in the ordinary legislation or statute without providing the same under the Constitution of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in Clause 9 of the bill, it proposes to amend Article 88 of the Constitution to mandate IEBC to ensure no more than 2/3 of the candidates of a political party are of the same gender, Honorable Speaker. This provision, in my mind, it serves the right purpose, that it will go all along to solve the issue of gender parity, which has been an issue that has not been resolved, although it's provided under the Constitution of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. But the question that begs, Honorable Speaker, is if some people or some gender are not eager to run for parliamentary seats or candidates in an election, then what happens of a political party? Can a political party force a certain gender to contest so that to realize this very particular provision, Honorable Speaker? This one, to me, is not very clear. Further, Honorable Speaker, Clause 16 of the bill proposes to insert a new article, that is Article 107A, on the leader of official opposition in the Constitution. This leader of the official opposition should be the person who received the second greatest number of votes in a presidential election. This is a good provision, Honorable Speaker, because it will not only provide vibrance of the House, but it will go also in a wrong way to check the executive or to check the majority side of Parliament, Honorable Speaker. This provision was there, I think, in the previous parliaments, and in the recent past, we have seen the absence of the leader of official opposition, and that absence itself has not made this House to be vibrant as it used to be. This is not a new aspect in different jurisdictions, Honorable Speaker, because in the Parliament of Uganda, in the Parliament of United Kingdom, India, Uganda, among others, the leader of official opposition is a candidate who secures the second highest or greatest votes. So I agree with this provision, because it will not only provide vibrancy, but it will also oversight the government in Parliament, Honorable Speaker, more particularly in the National Assembly. Clause 27 of the bill, Honorable Speaker, seeks to amend Article 140 of the Constitution on extension of hearing of presidential petitions. Currently, the Constitution provides 14 days, which are not enough for the judges and also lawyers to make submissions when there is a dispute or when a presidential petition has been filed. The extension of 30 days, this will provide ample time to the judicial officers, those are the judges, to interrogate the matters which will come before them, and from that they will make quite a comprehensive and amicable judgment, Honorable Speaker. Clause 28 of the bill, Honorable Speaker, proposes to insert new articles, that is Article 151A, 151B, 151C, and 151D, to provide for office of the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Your Honorable Speaker, and that the Prime Minister be appointed from among the elected members of the National Assembly. Further, Honorable Speaker, National Assembly shall have an opportunity to confirm the Prime Minister nominee, Honorable Speaker. However, this provision, Honorable Speaker, there is a provision that the second nominee for the position of the Prime Minister shall assume office if the National Assembly will not confirm his candidature. Honorable Speaker, this one to me, I think I didn't find it very well, because that means once the first nominee is not confirmed, and then the second nominee is not confirmed, the President has powers to appoint the Prime Minister to assume the office of the Prime Minister without reference to the National Assembly. To this, Honorable Speaker, to me does not appear a good provision, because the role of the National Assembly has been captured under Article 95 of the Constitution of Kenya, and it could have been proper that whichever way the nominee is confirmed by Parliament. Clause 29 of the Constitution, Clause 29 of the Bill, Honorable Speaker, proposes to amend Article 152 of the Constitution to provide for mixed cabinet with some members from amongst members of the National Assembly. The proposed amendment, read together with Clause 25, Honorable Speaker, seeks further to rename the office of the Cabinet Secretary to that Cabinet, to rename the Cabinet Secretary as the Cabinet Minister. Honorable Speaker, this is a very important aspect of all the things that really impressed me in the bill. This particular provision is a fantastic one. Honorable Speaker, I came with a bill proposing the same. It went through the first reading in December 2019, Honorable Speaker, in this House, and due to coronavirus, Honorable Speaker, it has not proceeded. But I'm happy that when the task force or the committee came to Nyamira, I appeared before the committee and I really submitted what they have captured here. And I'm very happy. This provision will go all a long way to make sure or to ensure that the cabinet ministers are appointed and they'll be members of this House. By so doing, Honorable Speaker, this House will not only be vibrant, but the members of Parliament of the National Assembly will have an opportunity for their issues to be raised and answered on the floor of the House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Clause 32 and 33 seeks to amend Article 154 and 155 of the Constitution to remove requirement of vetting of the Secretary to the Cabinet, as well as the principal secretaries. Honorable Speaker, this is a matter that really needs great attention. Honorable Speaker, it's only yesterday that we were vetting the Cabinet Secretary, the principal secretary. And Honorable Speaker, you saw how the debate went. In my opinion, Honorable Speaker, it could be proper under Article 95 of the Constitution of Kenya that this House is given its role. And among the roles is to vet the principal secretaries as well as the secretary to the Cabinet, among other officials or officers who are to occupy various offices in the government of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, while agreeing with some of these constitutional provisions or proposed amendments, I also came across some clauses, Honorable Speaker, which, to my opinion, were not well captured and which does not resonate well with me. Honorable Speaker, the first one is Clause 10 of the Constitution, which seeks to amend Articles 89 and 97 of the Constitution to provide for membership of the National Assembly to increase the number of members elected from constituencies from 290 to 260. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I find this proposal unconstitutional. Reason being, as my learned colleague Atienda Moro rightly put it, Honorable Speaker, some proposed constitutional amendments can be unconstitutional if they do not adhere to the process of the provisions of the constitutions provided. Honorable Speaker, on this particular issue, Article 89 of the Constitution of Kenya provides on how the limitation of boundaries can be done. For instance, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the schedule, how these positions or how these constituencies have been made, it does not really make sense, Honorable Speaker. If you look at the 2019 census vis-a-vis the proposed amendments, Honorable Speaker, you will find that in a county like Kwale, whose population is 866 people, 820, it has been given 3 record constituencies. Kisii County, whose population is 1,266,860, has not been given any constituency, Honorable Speaker. Further, Honorable Speaker, Kajiado, whose population is 1,117,840, has been proposed to get 3 constituencies. Honorable Speaker, Migori, where I saw somebody who said is a promoter come from yesterday, with a population of 1,116,436 people, no constituency. Homa Bay, with 1,131,950, no constituency has been given. So the criteria, Honorable Speaker, that was used to arrive at the creation of these constituencies, Honorable Speaker, is questionable. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I also have an issue with Article 41 of the Constitution of Kenya, which seeks to amend Article 168 of the Constitution to make provisions on removal of a judge from office to allow judiciary ombudsman to initiate a motion to remove a judge from office on account of complaints received from the people. Honorable Speaker, this provision in itself is archaic and unconstitutional. It's against the tenets and principles of natural justice, that is the right to fair hearing and also right to be heard. Honorable Speaker, I further submit that Article 10 of the Constitution, as far as the judiciary and the independence is concerned, falls under the eternity clause, which by practice is unamendable. Finally, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I could wish, Honorable Speaker, during your time, as you said yesterday, that the issues which were raised on point of order, you will make a ruling or you will deliver the way forward. I could also beseech you, Honorable Speaker, to point out or to make a ruling on the following issues, Honorable Speaker. 1, whether a proposed constitutional amendment can be declared unconstitutional for contravening the provisions of the Constitution. 2, whether the Constitution of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, contains
Honorable Kemosi, please just organize yourself because 15 minutes is a long time. 1 minute, yes. And the staff, please, 1 minute. Right.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Second, whether the Constitution of Kenya contains basic structure of the Constitution, also known as eternity clauses, in simple words, an amendability of a certain clauses. Finally, if Chapter 10 of the Constitution, that is the judiciary and its independence, is protected by eternity clauses. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
So, honor members, again, just remind you, please, so that you don't have to keep asking for 1 extra minute. When you see the yellow light, you know you have 1 minute, 60 seconds. When the red one comes, you know you have 30 seconds. Don't rush when you see the yellow, but just know you have 1 minute. The next one on the list is the Honorable Wandai.
Thank you, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this chance to express myself on this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, we are indeed...
Members who are placing their requests on the intervention button, please don't go to the intervention button. Just go, because you know you are doing that, I know you are trying to shortchange the system. To pretend that you are intervening. No. Press the normal contribution button, because you have your chance to speak. Honorable Wandai, your minute is restored.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say from the outset that this is indeed a historic bill. As many of us have already pointed out, this is indeed the first time as a country that we are amending the Constitution through a popular initiative. It has never happened before, and it is happening now. Mr. Speaker, as we debate on this bill, we must not lose sight of the background. We must understand where we are coming from. Because I see from a number of submissions or speeches, people are forgetting where this country is coming from. Mr. Speaker, it was not something ordinary or something that can just be wished away. That on the 9th of March 2018, 2 persons, one of whom, of course, had rightfully been sworn in as president, and the other one whose victory, of course, he perceived or was perceived to have been subverted, willingly came together to shake hands to save the country. Mr. Speaker, that is not something to be taken lightly. It calls for utmost patriotism for such a thing to happen. And therefore, as we debate this bill, we must remember at all times where we are coming from as a country. Because I see us forgetting very easily. Mr. Speaker, I was honored to serve in the 11th Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that in that Parliament, we fought throughout. We fought throughout. If it was not fighting inside here, it was fighting in the streets and elsewhere. And we were fighting, some of us, because of lack of an opportunity for dialogue. Dialogue that would have enabled us to carry out these reforms that we are now able to carry out through this process of amending the Constitution under the BBI framework. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we must pay singular tribute to President Uhuru Kenyatta and Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. We have to. We owe it to them that we are in a position to debate in a conducive atmosphere so as to be able to change the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, constitutional making or changes are never easy things. Even if you are a student of history, you will agree with me that even the acclaimed First Amendment of the US Constitution never came easy. Never came easy. By the time it was being adopted, I think in December 1791, a lot of haggling, push and pull, had happened. And therefore, the kind of pushback we are seeing in this process is not unusual, really. It is to be expected. But what do we do as a country? We need to focus on the future. Mr. Speaker, you know, personally, I cut my political teeth, if I may call it so, on the trenches. And I can tell you, not in some boardroom or such like place. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you, it is not easy to get an opportunity such as the one we have currently, to be able to talk as a people, to chart the way forward for our country in the interest of the present generation and the generations to come. So as a parliament, we must seize this moment and provide the way forward for our people. Mr. Speaker, people have been talking about this document, the bill, the BBI bill, whether it is perfect or not. Mr. Speaker, let me say this. There is no man-made thing that is ever 100% perfect. It's only God's creation which can be said to be perfect, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this Constitution, even as we amend it today, there will always be room to amend it again and again and again and again and again. Again, the other question is, does it incorporate everybody's wishes, interests, or feelings? The answer is no. Even me personally, there are things I would have wanted to be in this bill, but they are not there. They are not there. And I am sure there are other members here, many of us here, who would have wanted other things to be in this bill, but they are not there. So what do? Do we throw the baby with the bathwater? We can't. That would be irresponsible of us. So it behoves all of us to look at this bill as a first step in our journey to creating a nation that is cohesive, a nation that is at peace with itself. And again, Mr. Speaker, we must appreciate the fact that even the gains, the liberties, the democratic gains that we have attained in this country have always come incrementally. They never came overnight. So we get what we take what we get and we move on, hoping that there will be another time to secure others, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the most positive things that I can point out in this amendment bill, without necessarily belittling others, is the matter of the enhancement of allocation to our counties. Mr. Speaker, some of us who come from where we come do understand the problems of concentrating power and resources at the center. We understand very well. People have been saying and arguing that what makes it difficult for the current government under the current constitution to enhance the allocations to the counties beyond 15% or say to 40%. That is an academic argument, Mr. Speaker. Why do I say so? We all know and we are taught in elementary economics that resources are always scarce. So when you have resources, you must prioritize. Mr. Speaker, and priorities change with circumstances. So what we are doing is that we don't want to leave this to the whims of whoever is in government to decide whether to make it 15, 20, or 30. We want to compel him or her through the Constitution that at the very least you must take 35% to the counties. It's only a blind person, as somebody who is not able to see clearly, that can for sure deny that some work has happened in the counties. We know there are problems. We know there are problems of systems. We know there are problems of corruption. But the money that has gone to the counties so far has done something. It is visible. It varies, of course, from place to place. But we must appreciate that this amendment is enabling our counties to get an enhancement of resources from 15% to 35%. The argument of whether the country will be in a position to generate those resources is neither here nor there. That is not under our purview. We are making this constitution so that whoever is in power can implement it. Can implement it, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, as we move forward, we must remind ourselves that a constitutional making process is not just a matter of law or legalese, Mr. Speaker. This is a political process through and through. Through and through. Through and through. So we must always appreciate the fact that we are doing it for a purpose. And we must also understand where we are coming from. And that is why when you see Mr. Speaker, when you hear me speak even out there, I'm speaking very passionately. Because I know that mischief can be played. There is room for mischief in every process. And mischief can be clothed differently, Mr. Speaker. So when we sense that there is an attempt, however minute or little that attempt is, to either subvert or derail or otherwise make this process not move the manner it should move, we must call you out, Mr. Speaker. We must say it as it is, that where we have reached, we only need support of all of us, those of us who mean well for this country, so that we don't engage in sideshows. We don't engage in sideshows, that we focus on the ball and ensure that the country gets the constitution that they deserve. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that from here, this bill is heading to the people. It's heading back to Wanjiku, as was very eloquently illustrated by the chairman. It is our hope and wish that no more hurdles are placed on the path of this process, Mr. Speaker. And whoever is out there who is listening to us must understand that this is not a child's play, that we shall allow you to bring in sideshows and academic arguments. We want everybody who is responsible to ensure that this process is smoothened and we head to the referendum as quickly as possible, so that Kenyans can pronounce themselves on this bill and we move forward as a country. And those of us who want to mix up issues, who want to bring in matters as relevant as 2022 elections into this process, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you. 2022 will come and pass. But this constitution, God willing, will survive. It will take care of the interests of the current generation and the generations to come. And it's regardless of who will be in power, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, I wish to support in totality this bill and look forward to having it passed overwhelmingly. Thank you, sir.
Member for Madeira. I gave you, you must have, yeah, now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise here to speak on behalf of the great people of Madeira, who are my employers and who inform my thinking on a day-to-day basis in whatever I say in this House. Mr. Speaker, we are in unprecedented times. as we speak here about constitutional amendments, there are many Kenyans who have gone without food. There are many Kenyans who have no masks. There are many Kenyans who don't know where they'll get the next meal. There are many Kenyans who are staring at death, not because of COVID-19, but because of hunger. There are many Kenyans who have been thrown out of their houses because they cannot pay rent. And those Kenyans from my constituency are telling me that they would have wanted us to have a special sitting to discuss how they'll be fed, to discuss how they'll pay rent, to discuss about their lives and how they can stay away from death. Those Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, are of the view that in terms of priority, any money available to this country should be applied to get them vaccinated as of yesterday, to protect them from possible death and to make sure that they have an opportunity to live on and look after their children and educate them. It is for that reason that they tell me, and as I subscribe to that view, that in terms of priority, we have gotten our priorities upside down. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I heard the chairman of JLAC talk very passionately about Wanjiku, about her rights, about her needs, about her powers. I think he has been too busy with this report. He has not had time to travel to the countryside. Had he gone to Murang'a, where he's come from, he would have been told that the name of that lady has been changed from Wanjiku to Wagio. Wagio, Mr. Speaker, is that lady who is overburdened, who cannot take an extra burden. She cannot be Wajiko in Mayo, she is Wagio. And that Wagio doesn't want an extra burden. And the implementation of these proposed amendments will add an extra burden to Wagio. Wagio is not breathing. Her back is just about to break. She is staring at death from hunger because of the pandemic and the measures that have been put into place to make sure that people do not infect each other. Again, Mr. Speaker, I have looked at these amendments, and previously I've read the report very keenly, more than 10 times. We have been told that these amendments will address the issues of inclusivity. From what I see, what has been proposed, the offices that are being created are coming from one coalition. There before, governments were formed by coalitions when it was said we didn't have inclusivity. I don't know how these new positions coming from one side of the coalition will address inclusivity. In my thinking, probably naively, I thought that the formation of 47 county governments address the issue of inclusivity in totality, so that every county has funds, has its own government, and is able to deal with these unique challenges on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, looking at the schedule that is detailing how constituencies will be delineated, I want to say from the onset, the people of Nyeri, where I come from, have no business supporting these constitutional amendments because of discrimination. They were discriminated upon because when the BBI proponents went to seek views, they did not tell them to give views about creating extra constituencies. And the formula and the criteria. Kieni constituency, Mr. Speaker, is 52% of Nyeri County. And I have seen other counties being proposed to have some extra constituencies. Madeira, where I represent, is a very big constituency. And I'm sure if the BBI proponents did not hijack this responsibility and left it to IBC, the people of Nyeri, the people of Kieni, the people of Madeira would have had a great opportunity to appear before the IBC and put up their case using figures and statistics and get constituencies. As it is, if these amendments go through, the people of Nyeri are cooked. They are nowhere. And I must tell the proponents, they'll have a very difficult time in Nyeri. You know, coming to tell people to support something when they feel discriminated. And I talk for the people of Kenya. I have 2 farms there, in Kabaru and in Kakuret. Although my brother and my friend, the Honorable Kanini Kega, is supporting that we go ahead and leave out the people of Nyeri, I must talk for the people of Kenya, where I'm a resident and where I have a farm, that we shall have a problem with this document. We do not want discrimination in this country. We would have wanted to appear before IBC and put up our case, and we would have been heard because we have sufficient reasons to be heard. As it is, we are not heard. So, Mr. Speaker, as it is, I want to tell the Honorable Wandai, it's good. Let the proponents be ready to go to Wagio. There's no Wanjiko. They'll fight Wagio. Wagio is hungry. The late Bob Marley, Mr. Speaker, said, a hungry man is an angry man. As you go to overburden the people in a difficult time when they are dying from COVID, when there are issues, the real issues have not been addressed, where they have no food, when they don't know what to tell their children, and you are going to tell them to create positions for people, to overburden them, you'll find angry people. And angry people are not very nice people. And I wish you the best of luck. Mr. Speaker, I have firm and clear instructions from my employers to oppose these amendments. Thank you very much.
Member for Nyando.
Sorry? Oh, it's back. From the outset, Honorable Speaker, let me thank you for this opportunity. And together with the proponents of the BBI bill that is before this House, I join them. Honorable Speaker, we as a nation must firstly backtrack and get to understand how we ended up here. The country, after the 2017 elections, that was marred with a lot of illegalities and irregularities, if the Supreme Court decision is anything to go by, did invite a lot of divisions amongst the Kenyan people. Some of us who still believe to date that we were denied our victory took a different tangent that was not in sync with the peace and tranquility that a nation should have. But through wisdom, our 2 principles came together, barring their differences and reaching a common goal to have this country be united and once again move as a one unitary society. Honorable Speaker, that is what gave birth to the handshake and consequently the BBI as a document. And if there is anything that the handshake that brought about peace will be remembered for, is this BBI that we intend to have the Kenyan people through a referendum add their weight and their voice so that we can once again midwife a constitutional amendment. Just like 2010, we are once again in a constitutional moment. And Honorable Speaker, we were not born and created for constitutions. Constitutions are just but guiding principles on how people can transact and can relate with each other. And if there are areas where the Constitution does not act and work for us, it is our responsibility to make necessary amendments. No constitution the world over is cast on stone. And the time such as that has emerged, and we are as Kenyans coming up to make changes in areas where we feel the shoe pinches. We have worn this shoe for the last 11 years. Even the Constitution proposes 8 years to carry out amendments. We are at 11 years now. So we are actually time-barred to make necessary changes that work for us. But as is democratic, the naysayers must always be there. We will listen to them. And we will not have any given time when all legislative pieces will be presented, adopted, and passed. Otherwise, this House will have no work. And for those who think that their visions and their views have not been captured here, there will be a second amendment, there will be a third amendment, there will be a fourth amendment, just like the United States of America are beyond their 21st amendment to date. So this is not the last time. Mr. Speaker, we have had an elaborate process to get to where we are today. And the Kenyan voices have been heard, and that is what has been put in this document. So the views that are constantly heard, that certain individuals are forcing in the throat of Kenyans a document, that is not true, Honorable Speaker. Lots and lots of public participation exercises were carried out. People presented their views from across width and breadth of this nation. And those who are promoters of this document did not go out there to come up with their own views, but they collected Wanjiku's views. And therefore we, as a people who have been given the mandate to lead, must always tell the truth that this is a document that is reflective of the wishes and aspirations of the Kenyan people, Honorable Speaker. We know that the end game here is a referendum. I know certain views have been advanced that after this, the document can be taken to the House on the Hill and be assented to, and it becomes law. That can never be so, and that cannot stand. The Kenyan people must have their voices heard through a referendum. And even the naysayers will be heard. It is not so automatic that once it appears before the Kenyan people, it must pass. No. Kenyans will be given an opportunity to express their views on this document by way of voting. So for those who think that this is not in sync with their desires, they can vote no. And that is still democratic. Some of us, including myself, who are ardent supporters of this document, will vote yes. And up to now, we believe that we have the majority. But that does not mean that we shall sideline the minority. We will hear you, and we shall give you another opportunity in the nearest future as we come up with our second amendment so that those views can also be incorporated, Honorable Speaker. Amendments are always carried out to reorient people's lives. It is not something that is coming from the blues. And these are areas where we have identified, and the voluminous bill has gone in depth to try to dissect fundamental issues that bedevil this country. And one of them is divisive elections. No country can develop if each and every 5 years they have to be subjected to rounds of violence. No investor, domestic or foreign, will put his capital investments in a country that is staring at violence and destruction of property every 5 years. That can never be so. So we are trying the much we can under the circumstances to fix these emerging issues that would prevent this nation from making rapid flights on its economic progress. And we know that with this document, Honorable Speaker, we are on the right path. Honorable Speaker, the process must inevitably have supporters and non-supporters. And that is why people meet at the ballot to express their views, Honorable Speaker. One fundamental thing that I will strive to support this bill to the hilt is the mere fact that additional funding will be going back to our counties. 35% from 15% is monumental amount of money. And that is going to support lots of devolved functions at the counties. The hospitals will be built. There will be adequate medicine. Our roads will be worked on. Water will be provided. And I come from a constituency where water still becomes a problem, even though on the flip side, we have flooding every year. So if the county government will be getting additional funds to provide water services, then places like Nyando constituency will confine into history books this waterlessness that we eternally have up to now. And Honorable Speaker, what I would have suggested, even for the Senate, together with the Council of Governors, and all the stakeholders in the devolved functions, including the Ministry of Devolution, is that the devolved funds should take the tangent of the CDF funds, where monies can only be disbursed when they are already plugged onto projects. But giving governors and the county assemblies monies that still go there and they have to now sit down and decide which direction money goes, that is why we have pilferages, Honorable Speaker. It is very difficult to pilfer national government CDF because it is tied to projects. And that is why all over the country, wherever you go, you see nothing but CDF-funded projects. And how I wish that CDF would also be increased from 2.5% to even 5%, so that we can address the plight of our schools, the plight of our chiefs and their assistant chiefs, together with the plight of the police who carry out our security arrangements down there. And Honorable Speaker, the Youth Commission, which will be addressing the concerns of our youths from the grassroots. And you know, it is a time bomb, and this has been said severally, that these youths without any tangible income will one day become disastrous to this country. And the Youth Commission will be able to have all the CVs of the youths, if they have any, try to put them into jobs, address their problems as they emerge. Those who want to do businesses will be given monies so that our youths can as well be engaged. And this is the productive lot of our society that we cannot wish away. On the same, Honorable Speaker, I'm very happy that there will be a moratorium spread on the Higher Education Loans Board that is expended to students in various universities and colleges. 7 years upon graduation is ample time to put their houses in order so that when they start paying back these monies to the government, they shall have stabilized and they will not be hard-pressed on meeting this obligation, Honorable Speaker. The ward funds, which will be under the purview of the members of county assemblies, will also go a long way in addressing issues at the county, at the ward levels, and this is something that we all stand in solidarity to support, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there will not be such a moment such as this. Constitutional making process is not a one-stop shop and is not an easy thing to achieve, especially when you have people who have gone through an electoral process and have fought tooth and nail in order that they can seize the power. And this is the only moment that we have seen protagonists coming together to address the problems that have emerged in this nation for way too long. It is not about Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and in fact he has sacrificed it all to have this country have a semblance of peace. It is not about President Uhuru Kenyatta. It is about the Kenyan people addressing their issues of concerns so that once again the country can move forward as one united nation. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support.
Honorable members, I want to reiterate what the Speaker had earlier communicated to the members, that on this motion, we shall strictly follow the lotter. And if you want to know where you are, you have the liberty to go to the clerk's screen and see where you are. I will strictly follow that as the Speaker had earlier communicated. Regardless of whether 2 or 3 people come from one side, I will follow this list. Honorable Masara Francis, member for Suna West.
Mr. Speaker, you'll allow me, with my 15 minutes, to remove my mask because everybody is putting on the mask. Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me this chance. And as well, I want to thank the people of Suna West for electing me so that I can be part and parcel of this historic moment of changing the Constitution for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, the first and ever popular initiative which has happened in Kenya is this one, Mr. Speaker. Because way back in 2017, over 16 million people voted for the 2 brothers. That is His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga. They delegated their powers and authorities and rights to them to speak on their behalf. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, when they decided as people who competed and, on the presidential election to sit together and agree on matters of this country, Mr. Speaker, I can say that is a big blessing. Mr. Speaker, reforming or changing constitution has never been easy anywhere. And those who believe that the status quo is benefiting them will always come out in opposing whatever the people want to get. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I want to say that the BBI initiative and the BBI Amendment Bill of 2020 is what has really brought a lot of good things to us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that in this proposed amendment bill, in clause 11A, shared prosperity, Mr. Speaker, that clause is going to help us as a country because the state is now is mandated in the Constitution to promote the blue economy. Mr. Speaker, I'm coming from the lakeside. Therefore, it means the fishermen, the people around Lake Victoria coming from Nyanza and Migori in particular, will be taken, their interests will be taken care of. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak also on clause Mr. Speaker, I want to speak on clause 51. Clause 51, Mr. Speaker, clause 50. Clause 50 is going to amend the Constitution so that the percentage which was being given to the counties from 15% to 35%. Mr. Speaker, my background, I came from the local government. We were receiving small money called Latif, and that Latif really changed the areas where councillors used to work well to enhance the development of the people. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the CDF money now, the CDF money has really improved development in all areas in Kenya today. In each constituency, if you walk around, you will see a signboard of money, a project which has been done by CDF money. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution, if you look at clause 11, also talks about how the people messing with the public money are going to be penalized. Therefore, if the money for counties increase from 15 to 35%, Mr. Speaker, the issue of inclusivity is going to be realized. The inclusivity in the sense that each and every area, be it in Turkana, be it in Mombasa, be it in Migori, be it in Baringo, each Kenyan is going to enjoy the fruits of the cake in terms of development. Mr. Speaker, as well, I want to talk about clause 54 on Ward Development Fund. Currently, at its stance, the ward reps are at the whim of the governor. If you are not singing, a good tune which the governor entertains, your area is not being allocated money. But now, moving forward, Mr. Speaker, each ward rep will receive 5% of the total amount money allocated to their counties. Therefore, it means, Mr. Speaker, that each area, each village will receive money from the national government, through county government, through Ward Development Fund. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the same clause, which is going to amend Section 207A on War Development Fund. With War Development Fund enshrined in the Constitution, the MCAs will do their oversight role because they'll be able to pinpoint areas where the governor is not doing well without necessarily being punished for doing that. Mr. Speaker, I'll also speak to Clause 51. Clause 51. Mr. Speaker, the same clause talks about clause Clause 63. This is where of my interest most. The clause is trying to amend Section 237A and a creation of Youth Commission. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in the history of this country, we are going to create an independent commission which is going to cater for the interests of the young generation of this country. Youths forms the bigger percentage of the population of this country. But when people are discussing about development, about interest, nobody is thinking about the youth. So therefore, for the first time, the clause 263 4B talks of mainstreaming of the youth perspective in planning and decision making. For the first time, the interest of the youth is going to be mainstream so that they participate actively and independently in decision making. Section C of it talks of the Commission will advise the national and county governments on design, implementation, and evaluation of policies and programs to secure sustainable livelihoods for the youths, Mr. Speaker. Youths now, as we talk, they don't know how to live because they don't see hope. But when this bill is passed, Mr. Speaker, the county government and the national government will be forced by the Constitution to look on how their livelihood can be sustained. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind this country, that, this parliament, women have their commission which support them. People living with disability have those who support them. Teachers have those who commissions which support them. But for the first time, youths are going to be given opportunity to be part and parcel of decision making. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the composition of that commission, it is talking of 4 members must be youths. It means out of the 6, the majority will be youths. That means decision which is going to be made in this commission will favor the youth. Mr. Speaker, I support this promotion because this particular bill, because it is going to promote the preservation and dissemination of Africans' morals, traditions, and cultures among the young people. Mr. Speaker, this bit is very important for this country. As we speak in the current generation, many youths don't understand their cultures. Many youths don't understand African cultures. They have been westernized to an extent that they don't know what belongs to Africa. And now in the Constitution, if we pass this bill, Mr. Speaker, the Commission is going to ensure that they'll promote and preserve and disseminate. There are 3 things there. They'll promote, they'll preserve, and they'll disseminate information related to African culture, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we talk now, if you ask current generation why somebody need to respect the parent, they don't understand. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I want to urge members that as we move forward, as we make this constitution, we must understand that it is for the current generation and the generation to come. Opposing it is not a problem, because even I'm a Christian, Mr. Speaker, in the Bible, for things to work the way they are working now, it forced God, who is very merciful, to eject Lucifer from heaven and send him to this country we are now on earth, so that things can be put in place for heaven to be real heaven. Therefore, those who are opposing these things, we encourage you, but I know, Mr. Speaker, when President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo sit together, my friend, nobody can defeat their initiative. That one assurance I know. I discussed with the people of Sona West, and they told us that so long as Raila Amolo Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta are supporting the initiative, they are going to vote for this particular, when it comes to referendum, they are going to vote 100% so that they can receive money for development, so that the youth can be, the youth's interest can be protected, so that World Development Fund can be protected. But as well, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that from the mood I'm seeing, very few people are going to oppose, because Sonkok talked with me earlier today and told me, Mr. Masara, Honorable Masara, I'm not going to oppose this thing because the youth's interest is catered for. The rest of the things we'll get one day, one time, because we are going to nominate, for the first time, Sonkok is going to contest and maybe get to be second so that he can be nominated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support the bill in entirety the way it is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is it? What is it? What is it? Honorable Masara, you are done? You are done? Okay. Next in the list is Honorable Sotsi Godfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this very historic motion of amending the Constitution of Kenya for the second time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I will want to start by thanking the committee, the Joint Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs of both the National Assembly and Senate for the good work. Mr. Speaker, I've had an opportunity to go through this report, and this is one of the best reports that I've ever read in this House, Mr. Speaker, because they have tried to capture every small detail on this bill. They have tried to dissect every issue that required to be dissected. And I also want to say that Parliament managed to assemble what I would call a committee of experts. Because in this joint committee, Mr. Speaker, we have around 28 members. And out of that, 18 members are lawyers of huge reputation in this country. So whatever report they have given us, Mr. Speaker, it is a report that is competent, that is a report that is very professional, and that it is a report, in my own view, I think is a report that is good for this House. And I would encourage fellow members of Parliament, please take your time, read through this report, so that the contribution we make in this House, it should be informed by this report and not what other people are writing outside there. Mr. Speaker, the second thing that I want to put across is that what we are dealing with here, Mr. Speaker, is the constitutional issues reflected in the BBI report. We still have legislative issues, policy and administrative issues, which I want to ask the House to expedite on these other aspects in the BBI report, so that particular bills that we are supposed to deal with, they are brought to this House and we finalize matters to do with BBI as soon as possible. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, you know, Mr. Speaker, I have been among the members who have been saying Parliament cannot be a bystander. Parliament cannot be a rubber stamp. But reading through this report and listening to the contribution of the mover and the seconder, I am convinced, Mr. Speaker, that there is no room to amend this bill. There is no room to amend this bill. This bill belongs to the people of Kenya. Our role under Article 257 is to pass it or reject it. And then it will go to the people of Kenya to make a decision. There has been also a concern raised by some people as to whether this bill is properly a popular initiative. Mr. Speaker, if you read through this report, it gives a very good historical background of where we started from. We started with the divisive election of 2017, where we had two leaders who got a cumulative votes of 15 million Kenyans supporting them. Then these two leaders, in their own wisdom, decided to shake hands in the handshake. And that handshake had an agreement signed between the two. That is where we started. So for those of us who are saying that this does not qualify to be a popular initiative, I think they are not with us in this country. Because we have two leaders who are voted for by Kenyans, 15 million votes. Those 15 million votes were people of Kenya. That is where the legitimacy of this bill is coming from. The people of Kenya. So this is a people initiative, and our role is to pass this bill to the people in a referendum, and the Kenyans will make their decision known. Another issue, Mr. Speaker, I want to raise is the issues that we have been hearing in the media. Mr. Speaker, last week we were fed with information that is some county assemblies passed bills which were not authentic. Mr. Speaker, if you read this report, it is very clear that the bills that went to the county assemblies and they were passed were authentic, and more than 24 counties passed this bill. And I want to thank the Speaker of the National Assembly
is what comes to that figure of
for being wise. That the Speaker of the National Assembly constituted a committee that came up with the guidelines for the delivery of the county assembly returns. And those guidelines were gazetted on the 18th of November 2021. And those guidelines captured the possible administrative gaps.
David, you said the people who approached you was Xi Jinping and Mr. Gashoka.
Yes.
Isn't it? Correct? Okay. Are you aware when they approached you?
I can't remember. It was in the course of when the guys who they gave the company were not able to do it. And the same Mr. Zhu was known to NTEC, Mr. Chen. Then that is where they came and said, look, those guys were unable to do it. These guys have the kits, but they are insisting they need an assurance that if they give us to deliver and we are paid, we'll pay them. And for the information of this committee, Chairman, I gave my statement to the EACC.
Fair enough.
I am the one who even gave them the bank accounts, all right? And those things are available, okay. All right? The question is, why am I here? Actually, that is what I cannot understand.
No, Mr. Murade. Mr. Murade.
Can you clarify?
No, Mr. Murade. Listen to me. Listen to me. Mr. Murade. The issue of why you are here, this committee has sat down and listened to hundreds of witnesses.
Right.
No one is superior or inferior to any other. We will call, listen to me.
Yes.
You see the way you've told us here?
Yeah.
That there are people here. Even these people will be called.
Even Zuma was yesterday in the
listen to me, Mr. Murade. Mr. Murade, you will switch off your microphone as I gave you an opportunity. Thank you. Let's behave like leaders that we are. Now, I need to ask you, this is a very vital matter. I asked you, and stop derailing, I asked you a simple question. When was it when these people approached you? And I have a reason as to why. Do you know the date? When did they approach you?
It must have been around May.
Around May?
Yeah.
No.
Chairman, I don't have the specific, unless you...
No, Robbie, you...
Chairman, if you check, no?
Robbie,
There's something I wanted to say, no, Chairman.
Robbie, I'm
Chairman.
on the floor, Robbie, you will switch off your microphone. After I'm done, I've gotten your...
No, I wanted to answer the question he's saying.
No.
I just wanted to answer the question he's saying. He's not aware why he's here.
We're through with that. Those are side shows that we will not even...
Chair, these are Tanga people.
Whatever they are, Babu. Honorable members.
Chair, you need to take action against
No.
Chairman, I think I can answer that question, which
Honorable members, no,
a point of order.
no, there's nothing out of order.
We cannot trivialize this issue.
I need you to answer this question, Mr. Murade. Mr. Murade, I will not allow at any given time for us to be derailed. I asked a simple question. When did Mr. Xi Jinping and Mr. Gashoka approach you?
I need to check.
You said it was in May.
I need to check when that account was opened, because around that time.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking you that is because by the date of them approaching you, and these are now the issues that members need to get facts of. By the time they approached you, Mr. Xi Jinping had ceased to be a shareholder of this company. So what was the interest of Xi Jinping in approaching you?
It is the company, his company. I told you,
No,
it was not... Wait, Chair. This company was not incorporated just for the sake of COVID.
No.
It had a reputation.
No,
no, let me finish.
No.
Xi Jinping did not cease. What they did, they transferred the company to Bush and Company.
Okay.
Bush has then since returned the company
back to
IV.
Yes. But now, the reason why I'm asking you this is because these are the issues now we need to put into the report. This is a document that you provided us right now. That the current signatories for this is Mr. Chen Chao.
Yes.
Ivy, who is the current director, Mr. Wilbert Gatei, who actually formed this company with Xi Jinping.
Right.
Xi Jinping appears to have disappeared. Would you be having the contacts of Xi Jinping?
Xi is a prominent Chinese person in this country.
No, we don't know him. That's why we are asking you. Would
I'm
you
sure they were saying you even have his affidavits.
No, actually, we don't have his affidavits. The affidavits that
My
we
friend,
have are for Mr. Chen Chao.
Is he part of those mandates?
Mr. Murade,
Somebody like you would come and introduce me to somebody, right? I said, I'm known to Zhu. I'm known to William. All right? Whether he was a signatory or a shareholder or whatever, after they transferred to the deputy president's associates, he can say, now this thing has gone south. We have these friends who have the kids who are able to deliver, but they need an assurance that when Kilik, which he was still associated with, is paid, they will be paid.
Okay. So my question to you is that since you've told us that this is a person that you've done work with and everything else, we would request you to just provide us the details of Mr.
No problem.
Jinping. Thank you
There is
very
no
much.
problem.
All right. Now, the other question that is there is in terms of the guarantee. You said there was nothing that was done in writing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not the contractual meaning of guarantee. And I clarified to
Honorable Kajwang.
It is like a comfort assurance. I assure you, Abdul Samad will pay you.
Okay. No, the reason I'm asking that is because Chen Chao still remains to become a signatory of this particular account. Are you aware? Of
He does what?
He still remains a signatory of this account, Chen Chao.
After?
This is a document that you provided us.
Yeah, but that is before, during, or after the cancellation.
Even after the cancellation,
yeah.
Chen Chao, this is a letter. Of course, we'll now have to get in touch with Equity to confirm this email.
Yes.
Because this is not dated. It is only, the time is 1549.
There's another one which tells you sometime in July. The dates are there.
Yes.
And it is
so this is the
date,
person. This was on
different
28th of July. And there's another one.
Different time. There is like 4 minutes apart.
This could be the time of printing, because this was from a phone.
It's an email from the bank.
Yeah, I understand, but if we go into IT savvy issues, this is a screenshot from a phone. And that is why there's bars here and showing that this is 4G.
You can check with the bank.
And that's why I said I will check with the bank.
Please.
I just simply asked you a question.
Yeah.
It is vital. I'm sure it is in our interest to finalize and we just get it on with.
Right.
I just need to ask you, is Chen Chao continues being a signatory here?
Of what?
Of Kilig.
I haven't